Hello, how are you? In this video, we're going to make the paper flowers that I had on top of the decoupage box for Mother's Day. When I was a kindergarten teacher, I used to make these all the time for bulletin boards or other projects, and I'm going to show you two ways that we used to do this. The first method involves using the muffin liners, and they're very easy to use because they're kind of a good size for a flower, and they come in lots of different colors now, and even patterns if you're interested in that. I had an old pattern I brought with me from my kindergarten days, and it involves two pieces for the peony flower. One is a larger piece that almost reminds me of an hourglass that goes kind of on the bottom part, and then the next piece has about 6 petals with some little scallops at the edges. These are old patterns, but there are literally tons on the internet of free PDF downloads for these patterns, and the peony is just a really pretty one to do. So I just brought my old one out, and I put the pattern over about 3 of these liners after I kind of flatten it out. Once you do your pattern, make sure you do it with a pencil because you don't want any dark marker lines or pen lines showing in your flower, and at least if the pencil shows it's very light, you won't see it as much. And cutting these out is hard to do, I'm just going to be honest. The part of the muffin liner is folded so much it makes it hard, but even if you don't do it perfectly, it's okay because it almost makes the flower look more realistic to me to have some strange little shapes, and nature's not perfect, so it looks really neat to me even if you mess up the cutting. After cutting out about 10 or 12 of the first hourglass type pattern, then I brought out the 6 petal pattern and did about 10 or 12 of those also. Did exactly the same way, traced them and then cut them out. And you might have trouble with the scalloped edges of the little flowers because of the way the muffin liners are, but just keep working with it, do the best you can, and it will be okay. As you can see, mine are not perfect at the edge where the little scallops are. You can tell that mine are just, some are better than others. I just did the best I could, and that will be okay. I also would usually cut out about 3 at a time. I would usually stack 3 muffin layers at a time and do the pattern and cut 3 out at a time. And it's hard to separate those, so take a moment to just sit there and get those separated. You'll see I'm kind of struggling with it on this video. I just have to sit and pull each one apart, and that will make it ready for you to glue. It'll make it easier for you. Alright, to make the center part of the peony, which is actually called the carpels, you want to cut a piece of yellow paper, either craft paper, construction paper, whatever you have, into a strip about 3 inches long by 1/2 inch. And then you're going to go down one side and make snips that go about 3/4 of the way into the paper, but not all the way through. You don't want to cut it into pieces. You want it all one large piece with snips all the way down one side. Alright, next I start rolling this up. Just start at one end and roll it as tightly as you can, and when you get to the other end and get everything rolled up, secure it with 1 drop of glue. I use the hot glue gun. Just be very careful not to burn yourself, and 1 drop will pretty much secure that. And once I get this done, then I'm going to kind of bend the little fringes that I cut kind of outward and in different directions. Since it's paper, it will bend and hold its shape. And I just keep working with it until I get them all kind of bending in different directions and looking like the natural center of the plant would look. Alright, next I just bend the petals gently toward the center until they have kind of a rounded look like a peony would have. And once I'm happy with that, I use a generous drop of glue to secure the yellow piece in the center of the flower. And then I just keep working with these until I get the shape and the look that I want. And then my flower's done. The one thing that I don't like about these is that the darker muffin liner has a white side underneath. So when you turn it different ways, you can see that whiter side. This is not a problem for the pastel muffin liners, just the darker ones. But the next version doesn't have that problem at all. And it takes a little bit more time, but they're definitely my favorite. Okay, the second method is using coffee filters. And you just buy any kind of coffee filters, any size you want. And you need some latex paint. I just get the craft paint either at Walmart or Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And you put just a few drops in a bowl and like a couple of teaspoons of water. Stir it together so that you're just making it thin. Then I put about 20 or 30 coffee filters in at one time. Get them completely saturated to the point that I even squeeze them out. And once you've squeezed all the paint out, you sit these out. Even if you want to leave 10 or so together at a time, you just set them out for them to dry. I usually let mine dry overnight and then I separate them out. I've heard some people say that if they added either a few little tiny drops of yellow or gold or even an orange, just a little tiny bit to their paint, it gives it more of an antique look. So that's something you might consider. But today I used two different colors to make this peony, a blue and a pink, just to kind of see what a two-layered flower would look like. So that's what this one will be. As you can see, I've done exactly the same thing. I've taken my larger piece and put it on the blue liners and traced it out. I got about 3 of those on each set of liners. I'm still cutting out about 3 at a time and trying to get about 12 or so, maybe even 16 of each of those pieces. And then I used the smaller pattern on my pink liners and got about 16 of those and cut those out. So I have about 12 to 16 blue pieces and 12 to 16 pink pieces. The blue, of course, being the larger, will be the part we start with first, and it will be on the bottom. Okay, I repeated the same steps to come up with the yellow center for my flower. Just did exactly the same thing. And I also used the same steps for gluing the bottom pieces of the blue flower. Just put one layer, put a drop of glue, put the next layer, turn it just a little, put a drop of glue, and we just continued on the same way to make the basic pattern of the flower. And then when I got done with the blue pieces, I started with a drop of glue, and the next layer would be a pink layer, and went pink all the way to the top. So blue, and then blue all the way to the middle, pink all the way to the top. Alright, you also want to add your yellow piece in with a large drop of glue, and then work your petals into the middle again until you have the perfect peony shape. And I think these look so beautiful, and they really look like a peony to me. So this is my favorite way to make them with the instead of the muffin liners. And I think they really look beautiful, and you basically have very little money in them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to look at the How to Decoupage a Box for Mother's Day. Please like and subscribe.